All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kubeflow Pipelines community meeting. Today is December 17th, and the meeting is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. The meeting was recorded and will be uploaded to the Kubeflow YouTube account after the call is ended. Today, we have 3 agenda items. So the first one is uh, I'll be having someone from the Red Hat side dedicated to improving the KFP docs starting in early January. And so I wanted to brainstorm with the community of things that we would like to see improved. Um, at least for me, off the top of my head, is like more scenario based tutorials. So, like walking you through like the steps to build a pipeline that is actually practical, similar to like how Hugging Face has tutorials for using SFT Trainer, starting from just using like a data set, transforming it, fine tuning a model. We could probably do something similar and use the other Kubeflow components. I definitely want more of an emphasis on generative AI, and I think that goes hand in hand with some of the scenario based tutorials. I've noticed a lot of people get tripped up not knowing about the importer component, and so they end up like mounting S3 secrets into the component step and then using Boto or something to download artifacts. And so that's something that needs clarification. Um, is there anything else that comes off the top of your head in the community of things that we want to improve?
I think that we should probably reassess the entire root tree structure. I don't think we've looked at it and really understood. Right now, we have divided it up between like operator guidelines and regular user guidelines. I think like that needs to be a little bit more clearer, and I think we should probably improve the instructions on the different ways in which you can deploy. Uh, I think the operator guidelines are just generally lacking, right? Uh, I think like we can have better architectural diagrams and what have you. I think the Kubeflow components repo is going to be pretty good going into next year. Maybe we can uh, yeah, link to it or something.
Yeah, I think one way in like the scenario based tutorials is we could actually use components from the components repo, and that would, like, as you're learning KFP, it's like right in your face that there's a components repo, and so that could be a good way of advertising. Yes, Anya.
Yeah, hey Matt. Are you talking about Keyflow docs or read the docs in general?
It's more the website docs, because the read the docs does pretty good job, I think, talking about the Python SDK as like a library to use, but it's kind of like introducing new users to concepts in KFP, and then also like guiding them of how they might use KFP is kind of lacking. And as Humar pointed out, like deploying KFP.
Yeah, makes sense. I didn't see many examples on the read the docs itself, unless I'm missing something.
So I think general examples of how to satisfy specific use cases that may use different parts of the library, those are better suited for the website. Maybe we can do a better job linking from the read the docs to the website. I know we do it one way, um, where we link the read the docs from the Kubeflow website, but maybe people are landing on, because I know when you look up Kubeflow pipeline docs, the read the docs shows up first, I think, for most people. They may not know that there's a Kubeflow pipelines like website docs. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. the new KFP 215 docs I should be able to do before this effort, but just want to put it here for completeness.
Um,
Yeah, someone has their hand raised.
Sorry to divert from the current docs issue, but I would like to say we also need to update some of the React code as well in KFP, because I am seeing many logs that things are APIs getting outdated and we need to migrate to new versions. So I think that is also the important thing to consider in upcoming time.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some UI experts at Red Hat that will be working on this in the new year. Um, so, as assuming that we're able to get it prioritized accordingly, they'll be updating React and Material UI. And the reason why we haven't done it to this point is that all the unit tests are written in Enzyme, which is a obsolete library. And so you have to rewrite all the tests to React testing library, which is very, very labor intensive and something that AI is not good at doing automatically for you. So that's why it's stalled out this long. So hopefully we'll have some dedication from some UI experts at Red Hat to work on this in the early part of the new year.
Okay,
But
nice to hear that.
yeah. But
Uh,
if you're wanting to help out, I'm sure I can connect you with them too.
okay.
Yeah.
So, for this weekend, I was also working on one of the main issues about the security flaws that we have in S3, so people can access each other's artifacts. So I was solving to related to that, but I got that update today that Julius will be reviewing the whole code. So he let me know that he will do that. Also, I found a bit daunting that Alex has update means he has updated my commits. I don't know what was the reason, but what I am saying is that all of my commits have been changed, and I don't understand what he was trying to do. But yeah, if he's in meeting, if he can explain, I will be happy about that.
Yeah, if you can talk through that over Slack maybe, unless it's really quick.
I think he's okay. No issue.
Okay. Yeah. Just talk about that over Slack. And yeah, I just wanted to wrap up the docs discussion. Is there anything else in particular that needs to be discussed? Humir?
Yeah, keep harping on this. I know we talked about this also aside, but just want to mention here that I would really like to see this effort be preceded by first having a flow where we contribute documentation in the KFP repo itself. I think that really should come first, so that this all supplements that flow. Um, oh, did you already add it? Okay.
Yeah, sorry guys, I was just asking, maybe I'm a little bit out of sync here, but we're talking about these docs, right? That I link in the read the docs side.
More the Kubeflow website docs.
Hmm. Because I remember you, like previously we discussed we're gonna have a separate website for Kubeflow pipelines, right?
I think we decided against it because we want to keep like the SEO and the consistent look and feel across
Mm-hmm.
across Kubeflow. But what the way we want to do it is essentially have the source of truth be in the KFP repo, and it'll be just the exact content that's there today, and then we would copy it over on every release to the Kubeflow website.
Yeah, I mean, I still see this problematic. I mean, I talk about it several times because I think eventually, if we want to have something like this, we need to migrate the Hugging Face model, where you can select the version per project, like there's Transformers, Hugging Face Hub, etc. But we never got a chance to actually work on this because I think right now, especially when we move towards Qflow platform calendar version, there will no longer version of Qflow per se, right? Which means like it will be extremely hard for people to understand what version of KFP they're looking for. Which means from my perspective, whether we move forward with the Hugging Face version and we have an engineer who will do this, or we need to migrate to separate websites. I don't know what you guys, think on this.
I think, yeah, it's a good point. I think maybe what we'll do is have versioned docs on our read the docs on the Kubeflow pipelines repo, and then we just also sync it here when we do like the Kubeflow platform releases. What do you think of that, Homer?
You said read the docs. You meant the GitHub
No,
pages.
sorry, GitHub pages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I quite followed those. So you're saying that the Kubeflow platform might not have versions in the future, and
Kubeflow platform, yeah.
okay, like for example,
Sorry, like it will have version, but it will have calendar versions. So which means the
calendar
next
version.
version
Okay.
will be 26.03.
Oh, I see. Okay. But we'll still have like for that calendar versions. You're just moving away from somewhere, right? Like just gonna have
Yeah,
you're gonna
so
have like components that are versioned with that calendar version, like
I
the
think the
component.
problem. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry. I think the Qflow.org has a big problem, right? Like, what version we should serve to Qflow.org? We've never actually get a chance to actually deeply think on this, right? Because historically, yes, it is Qflow manifest version, which I don't personally think it's the right choice. It's the right selection. Given that what is actually Qflow is, right? Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Can I?
yeah, go Jack.
I think Hamir want to talk because I think he's unmute. If you want to talk, he
Oh
can
no,
continue.
it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. So can I understand how current docs are generated? Currently, which framework and how it is maintained?
I think it's
Just
Hugo.
Yeah, it's Netlify and Hugo serving in Qflow/website repository.
means last time means I helped one of the open source organization here to transfer the docs from normal means I transferred them to Fuma docs. It's similar to what Mintlify is. If you ever seen Mintlify, so Mintlify internally use Fuma docs and like that it is fully open source. And I think I help them to host them on GitHub pages, and I think we can use that because Fuma docs is a Next.js based framework. We just have to write MDX files and add some React tags in it to just if you can say highlight something accordions what any kind of stuff you can do. I think Fumodocs can be the best contender to rewrite docs. We just have to maintain the MDX files in our repo, and it automatically renders into a website, and which are SEO friendly as well, if not wrong.
What was the
Uh,
framework you said? Can you type it in the chat maybe?
Yeah, 1 minute. I will
Yeah,
type in
thank you.
chat.
Again, I don't think from my perspective it's a problem of framework. I think it's a problem
Means,
of yeah.
I think it will help to make lean things. You just have to write MDX files like MD we write, and we have to
Mhm.
just add some similar tags to HTML, and it will help us to make beautiful documentation. If you have seen
Yeah.
Mintlify documentation, it's similar to like that. Nothing
Yeah, yeah.
different.
But I think what I want to say, it doesn't matter which framework we use, it's the problem how we serve them. So the thing is like why I mentioned Hugging Face. Hugging Face has a unique way how they render the documentation on the left side. For example, like here, like Matt, if you try to select like Hugging Face transformer on the left side instead of hub in the drop down button. So it's like search documentation, yeah, here. So where you have hub, yeah, so here you have a version. So the problem is Hugging Face has its own way to serve docs from source code repo. So the markdown file, so like whatever format we're going to use, they stores on the separate repos like transformers, hub, or accelerate, and then have an
Hmm?
aggregation mechanism to serve them on a single, like UIs and micro frontends. We don't have this today. And even if you migrate to like Fuma docs or whatever framework we're going to use, we still have this problem of where docs should live, right? Because I guess like from my
Yeah,
understanding, like Matt and Homer, you want docs to live in Kubeflow/pipelines repo, right?
I think
Yeah.
we can keep the code in Kubeflow, and we can maintain the another repo. I think we can maintain another repo to keep whole the documentation tracking there. and we can just keep the code which renders the doc into website in the Kubeflow pipeline. That will be the okay thing. Means when we are deploying, we are just pulling the docs and just deploying on the website. So for maintainability purpose, we can also track the documentation specific issues on doc website, if not wrong. That can be the best idea. That is the way many organizations follow, I think. Instead of keeping all together, we can keep documentation differently.
Yes, on.
Yeah, so another idea would be Kubeflow SDK docs. So we are currently working on creating a dedicated read the docs for Kubeflow SDK, which will also contain different clients like trainer client, optimizer client, and hopefully pipelines client at some point. So I would assume that will be kind of the main docs for Kubeflow, and then we can version that per Kubeflow SDK versions, which will include different Kubeflow components.
Yeah, I think we should do that, but we also need some docs that are versioned alongside the server, because the client docs and the server docs are a little bit different. And I don't know if we want to include like tutorials about pipelines in the Kubeflow SDK docs.
We will have some tutorials there for like different components, and then also like end-to-end examples there as well for like combining different components there.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, like where to jump in. I think separation, maybe platform docs from user docs would make sense for the long term, right? Like for example, like imagine you have a data science persona who maybe don't care about Kubernetes, but care about visibility, right? So then we can serve that type of doc. But at the same time, I agree with you, Matt. Like we need to have a way for like platform elements, right? Like because trainer has the same problem, right? We do have a lot of docs which probably not relevant for AI practitioner persona. Yeah. Also, like maybe question like, yeah, Homer, go first, and then again, ask about submodules as well.
Yeah, I just kind of want to just like take a step back. Like I think these are great discussions. What my preference right now is to like unblock the path to us doing docs in the KFP repo and still having them stored in the platform community or the docs repository, and so that we can continue moving forward with this, and then we can continue discussions on how we want to change that up, what frameworks work best, how to version things. Right now, I think what I would like is for what I think we've been thinking about is just go with the current way things are done. Just have the docs, have a simple workflow that keeps the docs stored in KFP but syncs it to the docs repository. This way, we're not trying to solve this problem of versioning and whatever. With this effort, I think that's a separate thing that requires discussion across components and probably better suited for the community call and so have you. So I just want to separate those two. This one is just to solve the problem of how can we get users committing docs with their features when they make the PRs in the KFP repo. I think that's the only problem I want to solve with this. I appreciate all the other discussions, but I do think this is probably not the best place for that.
Yes, 100% agree. I agree 100%. Like, let's unblock you guys. And again, we should force this discussion in the community call. And like, Jack, if you have also, like, if you want to help us, that will be sort of, extremely helpful to have some proposals because we need folks who actually can drive some of those ideas move forward. So thanks, everyone.
No issue, no issue.
Okay. Yeah. So if you think of any other improvements, add it to the doc, please. But yeah, I think Mayor and I and Alyssa's the person who'll be leading this effort. We'll also brainstorm some other ideas as well as we do a quick run through of the docs. I think we'll have also AI evaluate the current docs and compare that to the feature set to identify feature gaps that aren't documented. So we'll do a deep dive, I think. Yeah, Mayor?
Just one more quick thing. Maybe we can make this into an issue that we link in the Slack and just kind of do like a call for action. If you have any strong opinions about what you would like to see in the docs, what's not done well, you can leave a comment and then we can factor that in.
Yeah, that sounds good. Are you willing to create that?
Yeah. I can do that.
Okay, thanks. All right. Thanks everyone for the discussion. Yeah, so I guess if there's any proposals on like the docs versioning, I'd be really interested to participate because it's one of those things that I think like we would get a lot more adoption within pipelines at least, and probably all of Kubeflow if we had better, more user-friendly documentation. So it kind of seems like low effort for the gain that we get. So very interested in improving that. Mary, you have the next one.
Yeah, just a quick point. The next bi-weekly call would land on December 31st. That's New Year's Eve, so that call's not going to happen. So the next meeting that will be held in the new year would be January 14th. Please don't log on December 31st. I don't know if we can shut the meeting off for that week or not, but yeah, don't go.
Okay, Mike, you have a KEP you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it on people's radar, like have it planted in the back of your minds. Since I know most people are kind of going out for PTO, just something to, keep in mind when you come back. I think we should try to get this consolidation of the different packages that we have inside of the repo into one if we want to do like a 3.0 release. So I just wanted to like get one proposal up and then, have something open for discussion. Um, and we could just hash it out in the PR and, you know, go on from there. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I really like this. I think Chen maybe mentioned some concern about the pipeline spec being
Yeah.
separate. Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to talk with him.
I did not get a chance to talk with him, but um, I did I did a quick search through TFX and I saw that wherever they were, I think the concern was that pipeline spec came from support for TFX and that um, it kind of relies on that. But I saw wherever pipeline spec would be installed, KFP was also being installed alongside with it. So I think we might be okay you know, if we do this consolidation and KFP is still getting installed. It might just be how they're handling like pipeline spec internally. But yeah, I search out through the repo. I could not see anything where they're actually importing pipeline spec at all.
Oh,
So
okay, great. Yeah, thanks for the investigation. Seems like a very short one, so should be quick read. So yeah, please, everyone take a look. I'll take a look as well.
Just
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, just
Yeah.
did you consider the impacts to like the runtime KFP? Don't think a quick skim is showing I'm not seeing that, so that might be something.
yeah, we could try to hash it out if we want to like in the PR itself, or I could also revisit it and make some edits to the cap.
Yeah,
Some
I'll take a look. I think that's something you should include in the cap because it's a
for
pretty
sure.
big major thing that we'd have
Yeah.
to change. Uh,
Yeah, just maybe quickly, I don't know if Google find it. I know Michael, you already went through TFX, right? And Vertex, but we don't know a lot about Vertex AI internals. So I think it would be nice for them to, and have a review on this because I know some people might use KFP package independently, right? Um, that probably will be a breaking change for all those users. So maybe KFP server API package.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely go to consider as none of us really know what they use for Vertex, so except Chen. So
Have you like did you get any feedback from users of KFP who don't use, who use maybe some of those libraries?
I don't think I've ever come across a user that only uses uh like any of these libraries, but not use KFP itself.
Okay.
Yeah. And all I know is that some Vertex users that I've seen that come to the repo with either issues or PRs, like they just it's mainly around like the SDK really for pipelines. I think I've seen maybe some on the pipeline spec, but yeah.
Yeah, because those are the only two packages I think that are compatible with Vertex. But we should definitely get Chen's opinion on it. I think he might be out of office right now, so might have to wait till early next year. But thanks so much for creating the proposal. I don't know if users will notice a difference, but us doing the release will very much notice a difference and be glad to have just one Python package. So thank you. The next topic is Andre.
Yeah, just before we jump to this, like for the V1, I think I asked Julius before. So from if I remember correctly, previously we discussed in this call that the V1 will be deprecated in December, but Julius told me last thing that probably that will be postponed due to some issues. Do you guys know anything about it?
So just again, just to clarify, the V1 is already deprecated. I think you're talking about removal
Yeah,
of
remove.
the V1 APIs. Yeah, we had initially targeted the December timeline, but uh, the last release that has gone out, that is expected to be the last KFP that will have the V1 APIs that we will continue to support for the next 6 months. I don't know. Is it next 6 months since the next
Um,
major release, or is it?
I say at least 6 months after we release 3.0.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
that gives like a 6 month window to
exactly.
migrate when both are alongside each other. So,
Yeah. So
and we can extend that too. It's more that at least Kumair and I don't want to be working on KFP 2.15 backports after 6 months, but if others in the community want to keep maintaining it, that's fine.
yeah, this consolidation of packages would also go alongside that. So we wouldn't do this in V2, and migration would be major, major, major concern.
Will
Yeah.
it create additional, or maintain your server height because you need to support 3 versions then, right? Because you don't want going to remove 2.0 with 3.0.
Yeah, we'll maintain 2.15 for at least 6 months after
The
3.0 is released.
So the API, the REST APIs, those are going to be
Yeah,
the same. We're not changing those. So we don't, so the APIs are going to be the same. I don't think we're not bumping versions on the API, REST APIs either, right? So those are going to stay
I
as a,
I think we're gonna keep as they are, but then we'll also maybe serve them under V2, so that's less sketchy because I think right now they're V2 beta 1.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They shouldn't be beta at all.
Yeah, so we'll just serve them under both so for backwards compatibility, but our doc should be updated to use V2.
And V1 you plan to remove only like in June or in July.
When the next major release happens. So that should hopefully be within a quarter or two.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like 6 months after the next release is when we would stop backporting any fixes, unless someone from the community, aka Alex or Michaels, are supporting it longer.
Are there any hard blockers? Because Julius told me about hard blockers to remove V1 right now.
Are you talking about the security context stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, we can talk about that issue because I was going to comment on it. I don't know what it is. Hold on, let me see if I can dig it up. Basically, I mean, I can describe it. So, there's a request to be able to configure security contexts on pods and containers. My understanding is it's from pipeline authors. So like for your workloads. And there's another comment from another individual user in Slack that was asking about this. I don't know if that's related or not. I told them that like we don't support that today. we could add it like we do the other Kubernetes platform stuff, but I have concerns about like surfacing the ability to configure security contexts for your user runtime pods. What I would personally like to see is we allow that for as defaults for the pipeline for the KFP level deployment. And maybe we can allow like the more commonly user level workloads that might need configurations, just surface those individual values rather than the entire like arbitrary security context that you can configure. So like, I don't know, run as user, or that can be a special, it's not a Kubernetes specific thing. You can maybe it'd be easy for users to, I think, understand that you're setting a user ID or whatever for whatever image you're going to run. I don't know. But like, that's how I would want to see that go. Is this a blocker? That I don't know. Uh, it's not on the top of our mind to add right now. I guess we need to sync with Julius to see uh why this is a blocker for removing V1.
Yeah, I think the main blocker is the MLMD removal because MLMD didn't support multi-tenancy securely. Uh, but yeah, if there's a missing configuration option for the pods that get created, like that's definitely something we can do. We just need an RFE for it. And it sounds like there is one already. And so let's just confirm to see if like a API server level configuration for security context constraints would be sufficient. Like figure out what the actual need is.
I'll follow up
And
with them. I
yeah,
was going to send a reply to that thread. I think Kill folks are also reaching to us about it. We had somebody reach out to help escalate it. So
okay.
let's see.
Sounds good. Yeah, so sorry, like to keep for this discussion, but I think for pipelines components, I want to quickly ask. I mean, we created this repo, we started the work there, and I know there are some folks from Red Hat invested to make sure those, components are in place. So my only question, some of those components, from my understanding, especially core components, written from the beginning, creating from the beginning. Like, I guess my question is like, why you guys don't want to build them from the beginning in Kubeflow SDK directly? What was the motivation to, build them here and then slowly migrate? Um,
We can include them in the Kubeflow SDK if you prefer. The only thing I want is that the repo structure remains the same. But if we want to distribute them in the Kubeflow SDK, I think that would probably be better. The the one concern I have is that it's like self-service, like each individual component. So it's like you onboard, the maintainer of the repo approves, but you set an owner's file in there. And we got rid of the notion of third party, so that means you have to be a Kubeflow community member. But it's possible that an attacker adds some code there that gets executed on import and that gets merged. And so um, I do
but I
worry
think,
about having that in the Kubeflow SDK itself.
yeah, but we're talking about core components, right? Not third party.
Yeah, yeah. So we got rid of the concept of third party, but the
Yeah,
core components, it's like you have to be a Kubeflow community member to be.
yeah, in owners files, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
like my understanding, like from my understanding, it's only community members who will contribute those core components, right?
yes, yeah,
So which means that we
and
can put them to owners files, right?
yes. So as long as you're like comfortable with that, any Kubeflow community member can be adding code that potentially impacts the Kubeflow SDK import, like importing from the Kubeflow SDK, then I think it's okay. We're going to be adding some security checks too in here to like try to prevent that sort of thing.
Yeah, who am I gonna go first?
Yeah, just want to add that the packaging of it is a convenience factor. We do expect users to also just go straight to the repository and pull components from there. Both are supported. You can import components and pipelines from like some URL, raw URL as well. So packaging is, we can include it like Matt said, certainly. But that's just one use case.
Can
And
Yes, sorry, finish your point.
Yeah, I think the key is that they're runnable documentation. People can look at them, they can use them, they can also serve as examples and to help them either use it in their pipelines or how to shape their pipeline. So it's a multifaceted initiative. Another thing is that each component can have a separate KFP version associated with it. So that's something to consider as well.
I was thinking about my idea was, I mean, maybe we have better structure, but we can have a submodules from Kubeflow SDK to pipelines components repo, which means the original code will be in the Kubeflow SDK, but you have a submodule in pipelines components, which means we can still have a reference, right, by URL to here.
Yeah, so if we're doing get some module approach or like it's just a build time step to like clone the repo before it gets uploaded to PyPy, the Kubeflow SDK, then I would prefer it to be in the Kubeflow SDK directly. So if we're okay with that, just let us know, I guess, which approach you want.
Yeah.
And I can update the KEP and then we can remove the PyProject toml from this repo.
I just don't want to, again, like I don't want guys for you to do duplicated effort. I mean, because like we don't have limited resources, right? And we probably should, put these resources in the right way, how we see this long term. Which means like I think we can solve, I mean, there are no unsolvable problems, at least what I can see right now, right? The owners files, we can solve the structure, we can also solve. If we think this is the right thing long term, probably we should make this the correctly from the beginning, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it adds some validity and discoverability having it in the Kubeflow SDK, especially if there's read the docs entries in the Kubeflow SDK that mention the components. So my preference is to have in the Kubeflow SDK. So I guess if Andre and Anya, if you have an opinion about how to do that, as long as we can keep this repo structure as it is, then yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, so I guess like my question is like what is needed? So every component should have a metadata, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But go ahead.
It's also that part is enforced in the repository. So like we're
Yeah.
keeping everything. So my understanding of Matt, what you're saying is the packaging. So like the toml that will
Yes.
keep. So because we're no longer because right now we're talking about packaging this
Mm.
components repo separately as a PyPy package, right? But now we're talking about okay, let's not do that. Let's just remove the toml, have it be packaged with the SDK, right? But the
Yeah.
repository structure stays the same.
Yeah.
So, and we all of this enforce that structure. So how you're adding a component, what it looks like, that still continues to be in this repository, and the CI checks and validation scripts and everything would catch that.
Yeah.
But I guess we still in that case we need submodules, right? Because
Or yeah, git submodules, or it's just part of the
git
build
clone,
step.
right?
Yeah, git clone when you're doing the Python package build.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So okay,
whichever you prefer.
yeah, that makes sense. And like in terms of like those components, the core components, right? We're talking about training, evaluation. Um, so do we want to? I guess they don't need to be installed separately, right? The way we can do like people install Kubeflow and then just import them from kubeflow.pipelines.components, import training, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So these will be all their own module or package,
Yeah,
actually. I always get confused with Python terminology. They'll be
yeah,
sub-package.
Python package. Yep. So what should be the next steps here? Like, do you want to, do we just, do we start a thread or like?
Yeah, start a thread and just Andre and Anya, if you can tell us like if you want to do the git submodule approach or a git clone at build time, and then where you want these to be importable in the Kubeflow SDK. And as long as we agree on that, we can have people on the Red Hat side contribute this.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like the idea I think was pipelines.components, but we can talk about maybe async in Slack.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I think the owners files we can also add. I guess like the guy, like I think there are some folks from Red Hat, right? Like, I think Halbert, right, working it, and some other folks. Yeah,
Yes.
we need to get
Yeah.
ownership for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, right now the only approvers are Humira and I, but that's just to reduce the noise from
Yeah.
Capital One folks. But Yeah, we expect like the owners to be like the pipelines maintainers, but then in each individual component, like you would have a component and then they would have like owners in here as well. And these would have to be Kubeflow community members for approvers. Reviewers can be anyone.
That makes sense. And like in terms of the dependencies, um, like we need to, yeah, we can talk about async, like, whether we want to install dependencies, everything, or we want to kind of separate the extras, right?
The only dependencies, and we enforce this through CI, is KFP. That's the only third party dependency that's allowed.
And
Okay.
the
So,
KFP modules, right?
KFP modules.
So sorry, the different KFP packages, right?
Yeah, the KFP SDK and its dependencies. Yep. So, it's only standard library in those, and I think we're targeting Python 3.11 and newer. So as long as that matches as well, and we're flexible on that part too.
Yeah, I think yeah, that makes sense. We can talk about those, updates async. And any concerns from your side? Like, do you think it's the right thing to do?
Yeah, I would love us to do that. Yeah, I'll need to think about that as well. But my only question is that out of curiosity, how would you?
Oh, you muted yourself.
Oh God. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was saying that. Yeah, I think that that's the right thing we should do, and I will allow us to do that. My question would be: is out of curiosity, how would you version the components itself?
Yeah, the proposal is that all the components are versioned along with the Kubeflow platform release version. So I suppose if it's in the Kubeflow SDK, then we can just version it along with the Kubeflow SDK, as long as the Kubeflow SDK documents which supported Kubeflow components, like which versions of which Kubeflow components are supported for that SDK. As long as we have that, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like versioning them together with the Qflow version makes sense. So it'll be easier, right, for users.
Yeah,
Yep,
makes
exactly.
sense. And is it okay if we do include components but not pipelines client yet? Are there any issues there?
I think that's okay. You're gonna have to have the KFP SDK as a dependency because the components import it. So but you could have it as an extras, I suppose, if you're concerned about that. But um,
Yeah, I think we can solve this problem. I think eventually we should depend on KFP. I think we discussed it before around first, way of integrating KFP into Qflow SDK, right? We have a wrapper because in any case we need to have dependency on KFP. And we need to solve all those dependency conflicts if we do some of them, right? If we do have of them, if we do have these dependencies conflicts.
yep.
Um, Starting with extras maybe makes sense, similar to like what we've done on model registry, if we see some problems. Otherwise, I think we should just install KFP.
Yeah, and we can also do some nice things for the user where it's like if we notice the user's importing the components and they don't have KFP installed, we can just like catch that as an import error exception and then provide a nice error saying like install a KFP SDK. It should be pretty easy to.
If we import, at some point we'll have KFP be the a dependency for the SDK. And that would be because it's like a first class component, right? So if that gets bumped in version, that would require the components to also be on that minimum version.
Oh, and in terms of runtime?
Just using the component. So like I have component X that declares KFP version 2.11, but now we're lower bounded on the KFP SDK to be 2.11, right?
Not necessarily because we ensure backwards compatibility. So like anything that compiled in 2.11 will compile in 2.15 and 3.0.
Yeah. So we would So we would then just start compiling the new components that declare it's 2.11, but we'd be compiling it with like a newer version, let's say, right? That'd keep us
Yeah,
honest, I guess. But yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, that's true. But it does mean that you can use the repo without the Kubeflow SDK with a older KFP version or something.
yeah.
But the version of KFP is more meant for the server, not necessarily the SDK. It's more like if I'm using a new feature server side, like the Kubernetes task pass through stuff. Um, the SDK and this, I'm not really as concerned about that for versions.
I think it should be funny as long as like backward compatible. I think they should be okay.
Yeah,
So anyway, yeah, maybe we can follow up with this. I think I just want to give Simon some time to talk about Metaflow. Sorry to take all this time. Yeah,
We have
let's follow.
we have Alex next, but I
Oh,
think it's going to be a quick
sorry.
one. Uh,
Yeah, this is very, very short. Basically, the OK to test label only applies once if a PR pushes up. It doesn't automatically kick off the workflows again. Someone has to manually approve them, and that's pretty unpleasant, I think, for some of our users. So just want to call attention to that. I don't know if there's an open issue. It's probably a quick fix, um, but yeah, just wanted to raise awareness about it.
I think it's intentional for security reasons because you're supposed to like review the code before you say it's okay to test. And if they push a change, then the code's different, so your approval might not still be an approval. So I think it's working as intended. It's just annoying. Uh, I don't know if we actually want to change it.
sorry,
Gotcha.
I don't think I quite followed. So we apply the label when you do the command. Are you saying it gets removed?
It doesn't get removed. It only triggers the workflows once. So let's say a
Oh,
user,
I see.
yeah, a user, like let's say one of the tests fails, they push up new code that fixes like a one character typo. It's not going to kick off the test again until a maintainer.
I
No, that's really annoying.
I
I would
think
rather. I think the idea is that I think the intent, the initial intuition behind it is that we don't bombard like the repository's actions, because there's a bunch of heavy workflows that run. So if we ran it on everybody automatically, somebody could take advantage of that. So it's an initial check. I think once somebody has said, yeah, this is fine, I think it's fine to keep running it on their newer commits, frankly. I find that
Eh,
very annoying.
I disagree because like if I do slash OK to test on someone's PR and I've never heard of this person before, I look at the code and it's like, okay, this seems reasonable, but then they could just push something else right after I do OK to test and then take advantage of that trust. So I, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I would I guess take it for the amount of annoyance that brings me. It's like it slows things down. I don't know. That's
Maybe,
like basically if somebody got stuck and now is blocked on that, they could be waiting hours and days when they could have been spending that time improving the PR. I feel like it's a calculated risk. I don't know.
yeah, I think it might discourage contributors. That's the thing that makes me nervous is having a way. And I've had this interaction already with a specific contributor where like they made a change and then hours passed and CI failed and I approved and then CI failed and then they made another. It's extending a PR that could have been done in a day into like something that's a week-long process. But
yeah.
obviously security is important. So
But
I can't change that.
yeah, but at the same time, I kind of take it back a little bit because there's no secrets available in the CI for
It's not a
PRs.
security concern.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it runs off their branch. There's GitHub protections. They're like I think it's pretty safe. It's more about bombarding, and we have enterprise on this. I don't know, like it's free, but I don't know what we lose out other than uh I think in the past we would block other repositories from their actions and stuff, but I don't think that's a concern today. What's it
yeah.
what about like other popular projects when you submit a PR? Does the CI run automatically, like Argo, for example?
I
Um,
know for ML flow it doesn't.
oh,
I mean, this is anecdotal. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that yeah, once you get the okay to test, you're kind of in the clear. just because it's too onerous, like to go keep going back and forth with the reviewers, especially when CI is like brittle. Sometimes it fails, it's not your fault. Um, yeah.
Okay, I've changed my mind because it's actually not a security risk. So if you want to fix it, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. We have like very limited time, and we want to give Sabin some. Am I pronouncing that right? How do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, it's Seven.
Okay.
And thanks for letting me present yesterday. I think if memory serves me right, I guess there were like some questions and people wanted to sort of like get a deeper look into how the integration works. So happy to answer anything that might be relevant here. And I am just curious, like, what are your future plans in terms of, let's say, KFP SDK? I think a couple of years ago, there was this talk that was floated that Kubeflow pipelines could sort of like expose an intermediate representation that then sort of like other projects can target. So we basically sort of like drove our integration from that sort of like point of view, but would love to sort of like understand what your long-term views are here.
Just
Yes.
before we start, sorry, maybe you could give some context to folks who didn't join yesterday's call.
Oh,
That would be
yes, of
helpful.
course. Sure. So I'm one of the maintainers of Metaflow. So Metaflow started out as an internal project at Netflix. Basically, we were sort of like supporting a whole bunch of data science teams, pretty similar to sort of like the teams that Kubeflow sort of like goes after, but this was sort of like before Kubeflow existed as a project. And Metaflow now has been open source for close to 6 years. And time and again, we've sort of like received this ask from our community where if we could sort of like offer Metaflow's user experience on top of the infrastructure that Kubeflow provisions. We don't take a lot of opinions around, let's say, what the compute footprint or what your data platform footprint looks like. So as of today, when it comes to, let's say, orchestration specifically, we already integrate with Airflow, Argo workflows, and AWS step functions, and a few folks are looking into integrating with Databricks workflows and Temporal. And we have had sort of like a few members in our community who have already forked Metaflow and have their sort of like integrations with Kubeflow pipelines. So we basically sort of like decided that this was sort of like the right time to make that integration a bit more official. And yesterday at the Kubeflow community meeting, I had the opportunity to present that integration in front of an audience. Yep. Yes, Alexander.
Yeah, hey, so sorry I missed the meeting yesterday. And if you answered it, I wasn't feeling well. If you answer this question, I apologize. But my my like gut reaction to this is why in the world would a user want this? Like at the end of the day, KFP compiles to Argo workflows. Metaflow already has the Argo workflows integration.
Exactly. And that was sort of like, to be very honest, that was like one of the reasons why we also weren't sure whether this integration actually sort of like makes sense or not, because then it's sort of like a roundabout way of doing something that is sort of like in many ways already feasible. But what people really sort of like wanted to figure out was that, okay, can sort of like all of this run on top of a singular infrastructure stack? Because at the end of the day, you can imagine sort of like, from a data scientist standpoint, what they really are looking for is what is sort of like the most intuitive idiomatic way of authoring workloads. But then platform engineers, they don't want to manage multiple different stacks. So that's where sort of like this entire sort of like reasoning came from, that okay, if you're already running and managing a Kubeflow stack, then can we sort of like just simply offer all the capabilities that we have offered right on top of that, even though, let's say, you could sort of like spin up something that is sort of like a bit different, will have sort of like very different characteristics when it comes to, let's say, scale, or when it comes to operational overhead, but at least sort of like it lets you get advantage of some capabilities there. And honestly, sort of like this just like expands the number of users who sort of like get to benefit from feature set from both the projects.
Gotcha. That makes sense. How do you pitch, like, let's suppose, how do you pitch Metaflow on top of Kubeflow? Like, what features does Metaflow add that are not available in Kubeflow currently that a data scientist would benefit from by leveraging Metaflow on top of Kubeflow?
Yeah. So I mean, of course, at the end of the day, it's not sort of like, about like a checklist of features per se. Um, of course, if you go to, let's say, Metaflow's documentation, there might be sort of like many things that are sort of like quite different than what Kubeflow and many other projects offer. Of course, we sort of like place a lot of effort on dependency management, being able to make sure that, you can sort of like package not only your code, but third-party code and sort of like, get that running in the cloud. Also sort of like what your local to cloud development story should ideally be, where you can sort of like partially run some workloads locally, partially in the cloud, and then sort of like, run everything out there on top of your Kubernetes stack. So there are like a few of these feature sets that we haven't seen sort of like, being made available in other ML platforms. And that's sort of like honestly what drove the need for building out Metaflow in the first place. So that would be sort of like a big one. Also, many times people do come to us and say that, okay, what's the difference between X and Y? And for us, the goal is, of course, I can never sort of like do justice to that question. I understand Metaflow inside out. I don't have as much of an understanding of any other ecosystem. So we just want to make it easy and straightforward for people to just like, try out as many different things. And then, of course, there are like pros and cons of every single approach. There isn't ever an honest answer that one thing is better than the other. It may sort of like suit different people in a different mechanism, and now this sort of like offers that answer sort of like a little bit better manner.
Amazing. Thank you. I hope those questions didn't come across as
No.
critical.
I mean, to be very honest, I mean, as we sort of like went about thinking about this, our big concern was that, okay, this is bound to generate a lot of confusion. And like, because people would be like, okay, aren't these like, like we got the same question when we integrated with Airflow as well. Because unfortunately with Flow in Metaflow's name, and I'm sure that, you get this question as well with Kubeflow, where Kubeflow pipelines is the DAG construct, but because you have Flow in the name, then everybody sort of like in many ways assumes that it's all about sort of like workflow orchestration. But then there are so many other things that sort of like, are needed when you're building an EML system that sort of like span beyond workflow orchestration. And our sort of like pitch was that, okay, let's sort of like just clarify that a little bit more explicitly. And at the end of the day, people should have more choices rather than less. So if you are bought into, if you have a team that is already managing Kubeflow stack and you still sort of like, want to benefit from Metaflow, then now there is sort of like a clear path on that front.
Right on.
Yeah, I
So,
think just maybe quickly, I think that would be really nice. Yeah, sorry. So sorry, I just want to say, like, I think it would be really nice to have a joint blog post,
Okay.
with us. And so
Yes.
I think, yeah, we should definitely have a deep dive in terms of, maybe there are some missing functionality. What about use cases?
Yeah.
Like when users might want to consider this integration. I
Yes.
don't know, like what you guys thinking about publishing it
Yeah.
somewhere.
No,
Um,
definitely. I mean, we would love to sort of like, do a joint blog post. When we did the Argo workflows integration, then we had a blog post in the Argo blog. We did the same thing with the Apache Airflow community as well. There's a blog post in the Apache Airflow blog as well. So happy to sort of like work on that. Is there an individual on your end that we should sort of like sync up with? We can start a first draft, send it over to you for a review, and then sort of like, go from there.
Yeah, we do have a repository called kubeflow/blog where we're publishing the blog posts.
Okay.
We can, we can start a Google Doc and just publish it, for example, in KEP, if, Matt, Alex, and Homer, you're okay with that. And maybe we can collaborate in the Google Doc and then publish something in the kubeflow/blog.
So let me do this then. I can
Mhm.
start a quick doc, share sort of like an outline, maybe send it out to you and the folks you mentioned, and then we can sort of like, just go from there in terms of what the structure should be and if there are like specific features that you would want. And I guess Alex has a question on what does Metaflow use for local execution? I mean, we basically just like parse your Python file, sort of like generate an abstract syntax tree on top of it, and then just execute from that sort of like point on. So there isn't sort of like necessarily an IR. Compared to, let's say, Kubeflow, there isn't sort of like a central service that is actually sort of like storing your graph code. So you can imagine sort of like Metaflow is a client library. It takes your Python code and then sort of like does a top sort on it and sort of like starts executing. And then there's a metadata service that is sort of like just behaving as a tracking service, where it gets sort of like all the telemetry in terms of how the execution is sort of like performing. So when you're actually running locally, your sort of like executor is a local Python process that is just like processing that graph. And then in terms of our Kubeflow integration or Argo integration, then we sort of like swap that local Python process with the controllers that Kubeflow and Argo sort of like offer.
Gotcha. So all of the compilation to different workflow orchestration engines happens client side.
That happens client side. Yes, indeed.
Interesting. Interesting. Very, very different architecture.
Very different architecture. Yes, indeed. I mean, we were basically sort of like just trying to reduce our operational headache as much as possible and push it on to sort of like other teams at Netflix. So that sort of like, made it easy to sort of like just go down this path of sort of like doing as much as possible on the client side. So that then as the number of data scientists and their workloads increase, then we don't have to sort of like have any single point of failure or anything on our end that we have to manage.
Mhm. You're kind of offloading it to the underlying workflow orchestration engine.
So when it's local execution, at that point, there's no Kubeflow involved. It's only when you're running entirely on top of Kubeflow at that point, then sort of like it takes over the Kubeflow semantics.
They
Gotcha.
basically take like the Metaflow SDK, like a Python code that's written, they compile it down to the KFP IR, which then if it's a KFP IR, you can submit it to KFP.
Yeah.
That explains why you're able to maintain all these different integrations.
Yeah, so I mean, we are also sort of like very careful in the sense that we don't want to go out and integrate with everything because we, at the end of the day, guarantee our users that our integrations will work across all versions, and that sort of like a significant undertaking. So we've been very picky. So we started out with step functions because we were like very closely coupled with AWS when we open sourced, and then we've been supporting sort of like a wide range of versions on Argo and Airflow, and now sort of like Kubeflow is up next for us.
Gotcha. I have more questions, but Matt's been waiting patiently. Sorry, Matt.
Sure.
Yeah, I did want to say, always happy to give users more choice of how to use KFP. So definitely supportive of integrations there and can help out with the blog post if needed. But you did ask about the IR YAML, like originally in your first point. So I did want to say that if that's the way you're integrating, like that's something that we will continue to support. That's what Vertex keys on as well. Like Google Vertex pipelines, and so that's something we take very seriously for backwards compatibility and those sorts of things. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good to know. And I mean, next thing that the team is currently working on is making sure that this integration sort of like also works on top of Vertex AI. So hopefully, sort of like the fact that we are relying on the IR should sort of like result in smooth sailing. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I would pay it. So for me, it's like it seemed like a pretty expensive maintainer's burden that you guys are going to be carrying, but you do this for other projects
yeah.
as well. So it sounds like you know exactly what you're signing up for. Um, uh, I yeah. What are your plans to like how to keep up? Is it just you're going to be like watching releases and release notes and
Exactly. I mean,
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
like one of the things that we have sort of like offered in Metaflow since day one. So we started working with Metaflow in 2017, and we have never shipped any backward incompatible change in the last sort of like 9 years of the project. And our sort of like focus is that your underlying infrastructure is constantly changing. People sort of like, may want to make newer choices. Maybe sort of like, I don't know, like a decade from now, people may move away from Kubernetes onto something else. But if we can sort of like just provide them with good abstractions, then that sort of like insulates platform teams from sort of like the end user. So that's the way we sort of like look at our product. And yes, it's a burden that we'll sort of like take on. So anytime there's a net new release, of course, we keep an eye out. If there are like releases and other things, then we have test harnesses and other things on our side to sort of like make sure that there is conformance testing that's happening. And that was also sort of like one of the big reasons for me to sort of like reach out because there are times when sort of like, there are changes that can be sort of like hard to work around. But just want to make sure that you are now aware that there's like another project that sort of like depends on Kubeflows, and just want to make sure that then we can sort of like just continue this thread going forward as well.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. Like you can drop a contact information and stuff, and we can do our best to, because like
Thanks.
we have some big changes coming, especially with the way we package the Python SDKs, which are I guess you guys are using pretty heavily, and how you're converting into like the IR, I'm sure. So you'll want to be aware of that, and we can try to keep you posted as well. So I don't know what channel, how we want to do that, but that's
No, I mean, I think you'll see us in these community meetings at some sort
Sure.
of like meetings as well, just
Nice.
so we can sort of like keep ourselves abreast with any changes that are coming in. But of course, at the end of the day, when it comes to maintaining that conformance, there's a good deal of burden that we are sort of like willing to share.
Yeah,
Uh,
not sure if this applies, but it might be. You, I don't know if we could add you to the adopters as well.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if Netflix would count as the organization there, but it'd be good to kind of link there too.
For
sure.
context, adopters is a markdown. We were trying to keep because it's always like difficult to keep track of who's using KFP. So very recently we started. I think this is across the org in Kubeflow, where each component has like an adopters file. Where if there's a organization that's utilizing it, they can add themselves if they want to publicly display that, like, yeah, we are adopters of KFP in some sense or another. So
Mhm.
if this is something that your org wants to do or is willing to do, you can add yourself there. And so.
Yeah. And now Metaflow documentation now also sort of like references Kubeflow and Kubeflow pipelines in terms of this integration. So as we sort of like make progress on the blog post, would there be interest in sort of like adding any reference to this integration in the Kubeflow docs?
I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, we can give a shout out.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. And I think Alex had one question around sort of like preferred workflow orchestration engine. I mean, to be very honest, I think this is sort of like, like even at Netflix, I think we have like 10, maybe 12 workflow orchestration engines, because depending on sort of like the use case, one thing may work well versus the other. So I can sort of like give you maybe sort of like offline a list of workflow orchestration engines that I do not like. But I think when it comes to sort of like different engines, I think honestly, everything sort of like, at the end of the day offers sort of like different capabilities. And that's the perspective at which we sort of like operate as well, that there isn't sort of like one single solution that can sort of like take care of everything for anyone.
Got it. So you can tell me the real answer when we're not recording.
Speaking of, I think we're pretty over time. We should bring this meeting to an end just so that folks don't get meeting fatigue. Um, I don't know who picked up host after I
Yeah, I
just
think I
it was
just
you.
need to stop it. So yeah,
Uh, okay,
thanks
well,
everyone. I think we can conclude the call. Yeah, great discussion. Really exciting to see this move forward. Thanks everyone.
thank you.